everyone, thank you so much for joining. I can see a few people still kind of joining as we go, but I'll get started because we'll start bang on 12 o'clock. So welcome, I'm Katie and I'm part of Team UA92, and thank you so much for joining the fourth session in our Lockdown Lunches series. Hopefully you tuned in last week. We had a session with our founding industry partner KPMG, where they talked about all things networking and focusing on making those connections within this digital world we find ourselves in at the moment. It's really tricky for some students to kind of get their names out and build those connections, so they had a really useful session. If you would like to catch up on that, you can kind of look at all our previous Lockdown Lunches on our UA92 YouTube channel. But we created Lockdown Lunches as kind of a bite-sized motivational series for a time when, during lockdown and the pandemic, you may not feel personally motivated or inspired to do anything really. So here at UA92, we completely understand this, and we've been supporting our students and our school network in staying as motivated and productive as possible. And that is how Lockdown Lunches came to be. So today we're going to be focusing on reframing our reality and talking about how our pathways can differ from our peers, but we can still have really positive and successful outcomes. So today I'll be joined by John Usterbashi, who is a semi-professional footballer from Chorley FC and also a second-year sports and exercise UA92 student. And we'll also be joined by Marnie Millard, who is previously the CEO of Nichols, which is the home of Vimto, and is currently interim CEO of UA92. So she's kind of bringing her business expertise to UA92 and our brilliant students as well. If you do have any questions throughout this, then please pop them in the chat box or in the Q&A function, and I'll make sure that I ask John and Marnie those as well. So without further ado, we'll get stuck in. So welcome, Marnie and John, if you're able to turn your cameras and mics on. Hi, Marnie, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Katie. Are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, the sun is shining. It's kind of really cheered me up on the Wednesday. How are you, John?
Yeah, all good, all good.
Brilliant. How are you finding this current lockdown, especially because you've been in your first block?
Yeah, well, this block is all online, so this is the first one that we've actually done all online, and it's sports psychology, which is actually one of the most my favourable topics of the actual course. Obviously, I'd rather be on campus, but you know, with the current climate, it is what it is, really.
Yeah, you can learn from the comfort of your sofa, I suppose, can't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. So I'd love to talk to you today about your different career paths. When I'm speaking to students kind of in schools, networks and in our community as well, sometimes they're worried about following a different kind of path to their peers possibly, and also maybe worrying about their future career path. So I was hoping to kind of garner a few interesting points from you both and some great advice from both of you, because you both had a different career path than maybe some of your peers or colleagues, and you've still kind of reached that success. So Marnie, if we could start with you first. So you recently stepped down from your role as CEO of Nichols, but I'd love to hear a bit of a plotted career path, to hear how you rose through the ranks to become the CEO of a really renowned business.
Yeah, so I didn't go to university, unfortunately. At 18, I was going through the process of applying, and it was the polytechnic opportunity in my day, so a long time ago. And I think it's fair to say that you know, my mum and dad were completely unaware of what a university life meant. So I can recall going to Birmingham Polytechnic, so catching the train from Peterborough to Birmingham New Street all on my own, and arriving on campus and just thinking, crikey, I just don't fit in here. I mean, it was so overwhelming, and I guess that memory and that feeling stayed with me for a long time. Hasn't prevented me being successful, but probably gives you a little bit insight into, you know, why I'm involved in UA92 and why it's so important to me. But yeah, I've been in the food and beverage sector for over 30 years, 25 years in soft drinks specifically, but done a number of roles within that. I love fast moving consumer goods, FMCG, and I love soft drinks particularly because You know, it was great working for an iconic brand like Vimto. But what a lot of people don't know is present in 85 countries, and a particularly large presence in the Middle East and Africa. And wherever we went in the world, up against global giants such as Pepsi, Coke, Lucasade, Red Bull, whoever it might be. Yeah, a sector of the food and beverage industry that has 3 blokes who decide to set up a company called Innocent, sell it at Notting Hill Carnival, set up a business and eventually sell it to Coke and become multi-millionaires, you know, sort of 15 or 20 years later. And I did a lot of work with Innocent during my career. So great to see that entrepreneurial startup mentality, which again suits me very well, and that experience being part of UA92. But yes, did a variety of roles, albeit I'm a commercial animal at heart. So sales and marketing is my given subject if I were to go on to Mastermind or University Challenge. But within that, I've done a lot of additional roles from, you know, supply chain, purchasing, new product development, technical roles. And I think it's that broad experience that led me to the role as CEO at Nichols and Vimto, because during my career, I've really had the opportunity to broaden my skill set, broaden my experience. And that breadth actually, as you become more senior, ironically, becomes more important than going up and down an organisational structure. So that's been, you know, really beneficial. And when I do things like this, you know, it often makes me reflect on, you know, how I became and where I got to where I got to. So yeah, that's sort of a very, very brief potted stage of you know, my career. I guess when we talk about reframing our reality, a couple of particular pertinent points. I had a 3-year career break when I had my children. So Alex is in his late 20s, he's nearly 30 now, and Katie's a teacher. So a bit of an education theme running through our family. My husband's a lecturer as well in the university sector. So, you know, that point in when I had a 3-year career break was really just as technology was taking off, and I had a big decision to make about getting back to work. And I had a choice of 3 roles actually, and the route I chose, you know, has enabled me to do what I've done now. And also I ran a factory for 5 years in a general management role. I did that for 5 years, woke up one Monday morning and said to my husband, Dan, I've done this job. It was at the top of the tree. I often say to the children, you know, you've got to be careful what you wish for, because it's not always what you expect when you get there. I did it, I made a success of it, but it didn't make me particularly happy. So I took a step back and decided to go back into a more commercial role. So a very people orientated sales and marketing, because that's what made me really, really happy. So I guess 2 points in my career where I specifically had to sit down and consider what my options were, and the pathway I decided to take has led me to where I am today, Katie.
Yeah, and with that kind of turning point where you decided to kind of diversify your career, how did you come to that decision? Did you ask any role models, or did you sit down with a pen and paper? How did you kind of decide what you wanted to do?
I'm a Scorpio, so I'm quite instinctive, but by nature. You know, I'm very curious about any role that I undertake, any sector that I go into. And I think, you know, one piece of advice is you're always learning. Even me now, I mean, being interim as CEO at UA92 is not what I signed up for when I had that conversation with Gary and Mark, the then Chancellor at Lancaster. You know, I'm supposed to be chair of the board, but, you know, here I am as interim CEO learning a huge amount of detail around, you know, the academic world, how it works, what the governance is. So, you know, you're never too late to learn. And you know, I'm a really big believer. I wasn't brilliant academically at school, but but I'm quite diligent, I'm very focused, and I'm very determined. And actually your brain's a muscle, and the more you put in it and the harder you work it, the stronger it becomes. And I'm sure John can talk much more eloquently on the physics of all of that doing his role. So I have to be totally honest, you know, it was instinct more than planned, but I think you do that at a younger age. And it's still instinct. When Gary rang me and said, look, I've got this role, you know, it would be something that I'd need to do in addition to my normal day job. Are you up for it? And you know, I considered it probably for a couple of minutes and then said yes, not because it was Gary, but because I've done lots of work in Greater Manchester. I've worked with business, I've worked with academia. I chaired the CBI in the Northwest for 3 years, and I really, really passionately believe in creating, you know, individuals, young people, mature people, and really having skills in Greater Manchester for loads of the great businesses that we have. And you know, we can talk about it loads, but there is a very clear disconnect between academia and business, not least of all some of the words that we use. And that has been an interesting journey for me as chairing the board, and having business people on one side of the table and academics on the other, and almost brokering a conversation, being a translator, if you will, to really get to the you know, the crux of any discussion we're having. So for me, I have to say it's always been more instinct. And I think I shared with you, I was lucky enough to go to the House of Lords, and we were hosted by Baroness Ruth Hennick. She's 74 now, sits in the House of Lords, regularly speaks. She's not one of these folk who just turns up, takes their payment, has a cup of tea and falls asleep and you see them on the Parliament channel. You know, she really champions her cause. She was actually a teacher, and she was a teacher because her children, you know, sort of in that era when that was a great profession because it helped you balance your family. But she then went on to become the police commissioner for the Lake District, the Cumbrian area, and then became a special advisor. And she's a Liberal Democrat to David Cameron. So a very fascinating lady. And I asked her for a bit of advice, and it really, really resonated with me, which was say yes more than you say no, because you never quite know where an opportunity is going to lead you. So yeah, it's important to be focused. I'm sure John will talk much better about his journey, and I bet he's been so determined and clear about what he's wanted to do. And I think that has a place, but answering you honestly, for me, it's been a bit more of an instinct, and I've sort of weaved my way from the bottom to the top in all reality, Katie.
Thank you so much. That's so interesting. And going on to John, so could you tell us about how you came to be a mature student at UA92? Because I know you've had a very interesting kind of life before you joined university.
Yeah, so obviously I'm 26, so yeah, I am a mature student. But when I was 18 and I left sixth form, I moved abroad to Turkey. So I'm part Turkish, so my dad is Turkish and my mum's English. And I got the opportunity to sign for a team in Turkey. So I stayed in Turkey for about 6 years playing professional football. And then I got an opportunity to go to another country, which was North Macedonia, which is another European country. And I stayed there for a year. And then my plan was to return back to continue my footballing career in England. Now, I'm currently at Chorley, and obviously we train in the evenings. So I wanted to basically do a degree where I could fill up my schedule. So I had like my mornings and afternoons sort of ticked off, and then my evening training sessions. And just the UA92 timetable fitted that. And obviously being based in Manchester myself, and with the idea that football is a short career, because, you know, in general, you don't really see past 35, you know, maybe 40 if you're very lucky. So I always had the thought of what would be my next career path. So studying sport and exercise science at UA92, I thought was the perfect start.
Yeah. And did you have like any kind of turning point where you realized you wanted to go back to education because you knew that it was a short kind of career span being a footballer, or was it always in your plan?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I finished playing football, I'm not that successful to just retire and, maybe be a pundit on BT Sport or whatever. I'd have to get a real job, so to speak. And obviously, being interested in the sports sector, a sport and exercise science degree, I thought would be a great start. I'm quite interested in maybe doing physiotherapy. So maybe after doing my undergraduate degree, maybe doing a master's in physiotherapy. I don't know, there's still time to kind of maybe change my mind, but that's something that I would like to do, to be honest.
Perfect. And during that time, what have you found to be kind of the biggest challenge, and how have you got over it?
Yeah, so obviously moving abroad to a different country when you're 18 is quite, challenging. You're still, well, maybe you're still a kid, do you know what I mean? And you've got to kind of like, I had to move out, I had to go to a 1-bedroom flat and, just learn how to do all these things, which obviously all students kind of do when they move to different universities as well. But I didn't actually know the language Turkish, even though my dad was Turkish, he never taught me. So I had to learn the language, which I can now speak now, which was a challenge. And obviously Turkey is like a Muslim country. So people's religious beliefs and values are quite different to over here in England. So, understanding people of different cultures and stuff like that was challenging. But I think it's all made me like a greater person, given me a lot of life experience, so to speak. And yeah, maybe being more mature is kind of helping me with my studies as well, because of, even though I'm 26, I'm quite immature. I find immature things quite funny, and having that extra level of maturity, I think it will probably help me with my studies.
When you were, so say when you were 18, I know you went to visit Lim High School, Lim Sixth Form.
Yeah.
Did you feel kind of worried about your choices of not going traditionally too straight on to university and having that break to focus on your footballing? Did you kind of compare yourself to your peers?
Yeah, well, obviously you do all your UCAS registrations and stuff, and everyone kind of prepares for going to university. But I kind of had my mind set on playing football, really. So when I was 18, I never really considered going to university. But obviously with what's happened now and me returning back to the UK, I just thought it was perfect to try and mix them both. So that's what I did, really.
Yeah, and whenever I speak to mature students, your class is 26, you're not mature at all, but I think when you come to university past the age of 21, your class is a mature student. And I always say to those types of students, it's never too late. We have a student who's applied this September who's actually 60 and she's wanting to get her degree. And so I always say to those students, it's never too late, but I'd love for you to maybe give your advice as a mature student to those people that are looking at returning to education and looking at applying to Year 92. Do you have like one piece of advice as a mature student?
Yeah, I would say obviously when you come back to education, it might be quite daunting, because you think like, God, it's been years since I maybe even wrote anything. Do you know what I mean? And it can be daunting and maybe thinking like you're too old for this. But even at UA 92, there's a lot of people similar age to me, or if not older. So I don't feel like out of place, like, oh my God, I'm with a bunch of kids or whatever. And I'll definitely recommend it because, you're always trying to grow as an individual, and people grow at different stages of their lives. People get their degrees at 18, and like you said, somebody's returning to education at 60. There is no kind of age limit or time restriction on learning. I suppose you see it all the time. So I would say if you are maybe similar age to me and you're thinking, oh, I'm 26 now, I can't go to university, that's done and dusted. I'll definitely say to maybe consider it, because of, I think it's one of the best things that I decided to do. And even my family all say it as well. They always say to me, like, the best thing that you did was to sign up for that university and stuff like that. And I think you'll reap the benefits when you graduate and you get that maybe dream job that you've always wanted.
Yeah, and I think actually, particularly with Year 92, is you build your network when you kind of go to university, and you get to have that experience with different employers and industry partners, and your tutors will have kind of relationships with different kind of employers. So coming to you, Marnie, I know that you have a massive focus on like the power of networking. How important was it to you when you decided to reframe your reality and kind of come back to a different career after your career break?
Yeah, I mean, it's played a massive part, really, Katie, because you know, when I decided to move away from Refresco, the factory that I was running for 5 years, I had a break, fortunately. But the first phone call I received was from a guy that had been my marketing director, whom I'd worked for before I finished maternity leave to have Alex. And, you know, he'd always put his hand out to me, and, you know, sort of this was, you know, a good sort of 18 years later, you know, would I go and work for him and their business again? And, you know, that just shows you, you know, what goes around comes around. And, you know, it's quite possible to have fallouts in your career. You know, my advice is always to, you know, you've got to be strong, you've got to be clear, you've got to do what's right for you and what you think's the right thing to do. Equally, that the way in which you conduct yourself within your career, you know, has the ability to impact you much later. I mean, now's a really interesting point, because, you know, the network I've created over many years in the Northwest, you know, allows me to call on people to, you know, come and support UA92, or, you know, if I'm connected or we need a specific speaker in an area, my little black book is pretty extensive, and is not a problem. I mean, networking for me, I have to say, is still a challenge. It really saddens me that in many areas of my sector, to the grocery, particularly at a senior level, you know, there's still a lot fewer women than there are men, and, you know, it's irrational in 2021, but I can tell you it's reality. And I think, therefore, you know, sometimes networking externally can feel really intimidating. But I think you've got to approach it in absolutely the way you would any other aspect of your career or your personal development, as, you know, John's been talking about, in that it's an essential part of your own personal development. And there's dinners that I've been to, and I've always been selective about, did it add a value in a business capacity, i.e. was it something that really was important to Vimto and Nichols, you know, the day job? So, you know, what I would look at now as a networking opportunity, does that allow me to talk about UA92? Is it a prospective audience of partners, or would it be a prospective audience of parents or, you know, students? Or is it something that really, really interests me? So, you know, I'm really interested in academia, I'm really interested in developing skills, I'm really interested in sustainability, the environment, and you know, leaving a planet that's in a decent space for you know, future generations. And having worked in soft drinks, I mean, again, I could talk for hours on the challenges we've faced into, but that networking, you know, is incredibly important. So it should be approached with the appropriate preparation, who you're going to sit next to at the dinner, you know, what the conversation's going to be about. And inevitably, there's so many times when I've come home and thought, I've met a really interesting person. You have to listen well, because, you know, if you listen well and invite the conversation and invite the questions, then that doesn't make it as you know, difficult for you. But then you come away thinking, I'm so pleased I went, because I've made a connection. And there's so many times I've thought, right, I think back to somebody I've met, can I have a conversation with them? So the power of networking is incredibly important, but prepare for it and be selective about what you're going to do. And then make sure any conversation you've had, any business card you've taken, you just have a nice little follow-up, which is as simple as, great to meet you, perhaps something you talked about, and just leave your little paw mark around who you were. And again, you know, very often those people come around all over again, and you meet them somewhere else in a different situation. It's a very small world.
It is, isn't it? Especially in kind of different industries that you work in. And I know that since you've kind of come to be the interim CEO of UA92, there's been a massive focus from yourself around our industry partners and how our students engage with those kind of networking and industry partners. How important is it for U92 students to get this under their belt before they finish?
It's absolutely critical. I think, John's talked really interestingly about, moving on to his masters, and, he's thinking about the kind of role that he would like to do ultimately, when that time comes, and therefore those industry connections for him. It's all about having choices at the end of the day, Katie, and choices is a very great position. It's a privileged position to be in, and unlocks loads of opportunities. We've still got a long way to go with our partners on that industry connectivity, but it's absolutely what makes a difference for a UA92 student compared to probably other academic institutions that are around, and very, very good ones in the Northwest. We're blessed with loads of good institutions, which I love a really great competitive situation, because it makes you keep your game strong. It keeps your eye on the ball. But yeah, coming back to those partnerships, that they're very that they're all chosen for specific reasons, whether we're going to build the curriculum with them, which Microsoft is a great example, whether we're going to have industry insights such as KPMG, and then ultimately as we move into 21-22 and we've got our year 3 students getting ready to graduate, absolutely success at UA92 will be measured by one thing and one thing alone: do these guys have choices of employers to choose from? And that's success then, for us in terms of people being able through UA92 to get their dream job. Katie.
Thank you so much for that. I think we've nearly run out of time, so I've got one more question, and it's a question I always ask all of our students if we ever do these types of events, or any of our guest speakers. And if I can come to you first, Marnie, actually, do you have one piece of advice that you would give to students joining in university in 2021, or the students at UA92 that are undertaking their degree? So just one piece of advice for them.
Yeah, I think you need to be brave. Put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable, and look at getting as broad experiences as you can. So if there's some opportunity for some work placements that you probably would think that's not right for me, have a go, because also it's really important to learn what you don't want to do as much as what you do want to do, and every experience has a value, Katie.
Yeah, so definitely be brave. And I really have taken on board what you said previously about always saying yes more than you say no, and I definitely try and embody that in everything that we do for UA92 as well. And coming to you, John, so one piece of advice that you would give to students joining university in 2021?
Yeah, I would say probably quite similar, to be open-minded, maybe to try new things. A lot of things are kind of done via Zoom calls now, so for example, exercising or personal training classes, maybe to try, a free virtual one, or, just to be open-minded about trying new things, maybe societies that you can join, and you'll find out more information about yourself having tried that thing than not doing it. And obviously putting yourself in situations that you don't want to be. Personally, I don't really like speaking publicly and doing all this types of things, but I think it kind of grows you, and the next time you do it, you have that past experience, and you get better and better at it. So yeah, I'd say be open-minded and try new things.
And what would you say to students that are maybe feeling a bit apprehensive about going to university, or a bit worried about joining?
Yeah, everyone's got a right to kind of be apprehensive because of obviously the coronavirus pandemic. I know at UA92 that they're trying their best to support students in every way, shape or form, whether it be mental health wise or with your studies. You have tutors that are accessible most hours of the day, and ultimately just try to enjoy it as much as you can and be positive about it. Like you said, be saying yes more than no, and yeah, trying to be productive basically.
Perfect. Thank you so much to both of you. It's been really, really useful. And I look forward to seeing you on campus very, very soon, actually face to face. But yeah, so if anyone has any other questions, then you can send them across to outreach@ua92.ac.uk, and I'll be more than happy to send them across to Marnie or John, or I can answer them as well. But I hope you've enjoyed today, and thank you so much to both of you for joining, and the viewers as well for watching. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.